Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm starting a series on a Russian mystic named George Gurdjieff. Gurdjieff was a very popular mystic in the 20th century, and the interesting thing about Gurdjieff was that he had a very diversified spiritual training across wisdom traditions. And this diversified spiritual training reflects in Gurdjieff's concepts, which are quite radical, they are well defined, his methods were powerful, and in my own spiritual journey, George Gurdjieff was a milestone. When I came across the book by P.D. Ouspensky named In Search of the Miraculous, it was basically written by Ouspensky, being the student of George Gurdjieff. And he's tried to capture his system as much as he could in his book. And to me, it proved to be very useful. As I mentioned, for me, George Gurdjieff was a milestone in my spiritual journey where I could actually feel the depth of the concepts that we keep hearing all the time. It led me to develop some meditation practices which could actually make me pause and see the power behind the concepts that he was talking about. Gurdjieff, coupled with a strong meditation practice, brought about a lot of change in my life as far as the spiritual progress is concerned. So I thought it's my duty to share with the interested seekers of how George Gurdjieff taught his students what were the key elements of his system. In this series, I will take one concept at a time in no particular order, but I'll try to be as logical from the basics going towards advanced concepts. So today I want to start with a very fundamental concept of George Gurdjieff, which he says is that a man lacks unity. So he says that the chief problem with a man is the lack of unity. Let me try and explain what does he mean by lack of unity. So when we see a man named David, ordinarily we conceive him to be David. But what Gurdjieff says is that he is not just David. He has a John, a Paul, and a Peter within him, and many more. While he is John, but on a particular influence, John will come up. While he is David, on a particular influence, John will come up. So he wants to go on a diet. That's David's plan. But when a food is served or when you go to a buffet, the instinct inside, which is the eating instinct, is controlled by John. Similarly, if he's eaten too much, he wants to go to a gym. David wants to go to a gym, but a department of getting up early in the morning is with Paul. A department of putting the hard work lies with Peter. So what happens is a man plans a lot of things. David, the man who's known as David, he plans a lot of things, but he's not able to execute them because there are different impulses within him, and each of this impulse is controlled by a different fragment. So what George Gurdjieff is trying to essentially say is that a man is highly fragmented. Yeah, he is David, his name is David, but there's just not one David. There is a John, there is a Paul, there's a Peter who rise up at the time of their influence. If you examine your own life, you will see this happens many times. On a night out on a Saturday, you want to have 2 or 3 drinks. Sometimes you may end up having 5. Next day morning, you get up with a hangover and you feel, oh, what happened? David did not want to drink so much. But then who drank? It was Robert, who gets excited on a bar night. So that is the lack of unity in a man. So which means you may want to meditate, you may want to speak the truth, you may want to lose weight, but it really does not matter. You may not be able to do it. You'll go for 2 days or 3 days on a particular mission and then you drop off. Why? Because you lack the unity. All of you, all the fragments of you are not ready for that objective. So this is a very powerful concept. And if you are honest to yourself, you will observe this time and again in your life. If you're being dishonest, then yes, then you can bypass this concept. But remember, the part that is being dishonest is also a fragment of you. And this concept can also be added together through common sense. If you look at different people from different cultures and different countries, you will see that their belief system are totally different. Their fragmentation is totally different. In a country, there could be a place where you don't like to eat pork, or another place there would be a resistance in eating beef. And there could be a third country where everything is okay. So these fragments are also conditioned by the society. What I'm trying to say here is that all the fragments that we have are not intrinsic, they are cultural inputs. And the cultural inputs vary from one place to another. So Sufis have also laid a lot of importance on a similar concept. As I mentioned earlier, that Gurdjieff had a very diversified spiritual training. He was also in contact with the Sufis. I think he picked this concept from the Sufis and he put it in his own words. The articulation of lack of unity in a man comes from Gurdjieff. But there are anecdotes in the Sufi tradition which also point to this direction. I am maybe getting it wrong in terms of name. I think it was the Sufi Hassan. When he went to his master told him that when you want to come for initiation, you come alone. That's my only condition. And he called him on a particular date. So when he went there, the master said, I asked you to come alone. So he looked around himself. He said, I'm all alone. He said, no, you're not alone. You have all the voices in your head. What your parents have said, what your teachers have said, what the society has said. I asked you to come alone. So I think this Sufi concept, or what the master is trying to say, is very similar to what Gurdjieff is trying to say as well. So this is the concept. Now, every concept is just a mental concept, it cannot bring about a change in you. So what you should do, in my own understanding, what I used to do is try to identify the chief fragments that you find in yourself. Like we all have, some impulses that we can control, and then there are some impulses which are strong for us to handle. I think be honest to yourself and identify those strong impulses. And then as a meditator, you should be watchful. Alertness is a part of meditation process. So when you are actually getting into a situation where you think a particular impulse can become dominant, be watchful, be present. That's the only way to override that impulse. I used to do this exercise with a few of my students, and I used to tell them, like when they used to tell me, we would give a few names to their impulses. Like somebody would get angry when his wife would confront. So we told them that that don't let Matthew come out. If there's an issue, you have to be more powerful. There is another Zen master story where the Zen master would call a student every morning. Hey, are you there? Are you awake? He says, yes. He says, they will try to attack you. Be ready. So the student would say, yes, I'm ready. So who is the day they will attack you? These are all your fragments. These are all your obstacles. In today's time, I would say that if you are sitting in meditation, right? So the David wants to meditate, but what's the obstacle? Robert wants to see YouTube, or Roger wants to be on Instagram or on social media or something else, on WhatsApp. So these are all opposing forces. So as a meditator, if you're interested in meditating, you should use the concept of lack of unity in a man in a very practical way. List down your impulses and then be watchful about them. So this is the first part of the series on George Gurdjieff. This is the concept of lack of unity. And stay tuned, I will come up with more of his concepts. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe, and if possible, share the video. Meditation is very hard to promote. All the meditators should try and spread the word about meditation, because that is something which is very, very useful. And then there are not too many takers for it. Thank you so much. Thanks for watching.